quickly moving on to matters pertaining to the region appeal. Councillor Parrish.
Everybody knows about the tragedy in Malton, and it's the region of Peel that actually controls the budget for the Police Services Board. I just want to serve notice to everybody that when they closed down my community police station up there in 2018, I fought it hard. That was nothing compared to what I'm going to do now. We have 3,000 signatures collected by Ann Barkley in Mississauga. She's been Malton. She's been working on it for 3 months. We're putting online petitions up. The police budget is currently 40% of the whole regional budget. I know that. And the province has cut $2.1 million out of that budget for this year, or so far they have. But we still put in Ward 5 puts in 11% of the whole regional budget and 25.2% of the city budget. And we deserve a police division there. I like how the media says that they were filming a music video. It sounds all light, joyful. The videos, as the mayor has shown us from her conference summit she did last fall or last spring, those videos are threatening videos. So there's gangs coming in from Rexdale, they're coming in from North York, and because we have no police presence in Malton, actually the old police community station was 150 yards from where this took place. And the gangs know we're vulnerable there. The police try. And I have to compliment the new superintendent, Rad Rose. He's fantastic. He's got youth outreach people working all the time. Holly Faulkner's working. We're doing, she's been working with one of the complexes on Goreway, and we're doing a barbecue there on the, I'm not going to tell you the date in case it attracts attention. But this is a really terrible situation. And we're very isolated there. And we have all the human trafficking coming in from the airport right beside us. We have a casino going in at Woodbine very shortly right across the 427. And we're very, very isolated there. We need a division. I'm told by one of the councillors at one point the DCs from Meadowvale and from Streetsville were commandeered to put a police station in Malton because of its isolation and magically disappeared. My theory is it went into the Emil Kolb Police Academy on Hurontario and Derry, which is technically in Ward 5, but it's not in Malton. So I am going to be doing everything in my power, and so is my community, to force the Police Services Board to pay attention to what happened. It can't happen again, and it will if we don't get a police station in there. So that's a regional issue. I'm going to be like a broken record up there, and I'm going to be bringing people in to delegate. I know the Police Services Board is arm's length, but our mayor sits on it, Patrick Brown sits on it. They've both suggested that they will support this. We need to get through to them. You can't have the poorest area in Mississauga left vulnerable and unprotected. So that is my mission for the next couple of months. And once I get my teeth into it, and once the mayor and I are working together, we will accomplish this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Crombie.
Thank you for this opportunity. I was going to speak about this in our announcements, but since Councillor Parrish has raised it, let's actually have a moment of silence for Jonathon Davis, if we may. If I were chairing this morning, I would have done that. So let's just take a moment to think about a young life that had been cut too short, an innocent victim in our community, please. Thank you very much. So, as you know, this happened on Saturday night about 6 o'clock. And then Monday we saw another shooting, also gang-related, and a few other shootings since. It seems to be rampant. I did participate in a press conference with Chief McCord on Sunday at noon. And we talked about the needs of the community, and with respect, I did support Councillor Parrish. We had spoken about it by text previous that we need a new station in Malton, and with all due respect, not a community station, as Councillor Parrish always says, they're pushing paper. A full-blown station. The community is isolated. It's a higher needs community, so I do support her in that, and yes, I do sit on the board and will be advocating for a full station in Malton. We can see the need exists. also talked about the funding that isn't flowing. Yes, $65 million has been made available, $54 million over 3 years, another $11 million over 2 years, but there is no intake right now. We haven't been made aware that it's flowing down to the municipalities in need. I know that Chief McCord has, I'm sorry, I can't hear myself, you guys, has applied for $7.7 million in funding and hasn't received hasn't been advised whether we are going to receive it or not. So here we are applying for programs to address guns and gangs in our community, and he hasn't even been informed whether we're eligible and will be receiving funding or not. So this morning we are responding to some of the articles that are out by saying the funds have to flow from the federal government to the province down to the municipalities in need. I know that in the past, Toronto and Ottawa have received funding for guns and gangs, but Peel has not, and as the third largest police board in all of Canada, it's great remiss in this. I mean, gangs don't recognize boundaries and borders. They flow seamlessly across the GTA. They don't start in Toronto and end in Peel. They don't start in Peel and end. They're seamlessly operating right across the GTA. So whatever money comes into Toronto should be made available to Peel Police as well. So that's the important thing. Also activities, more activities for our youth to be engaged. Councillor Parrish has proposed the Youth Hub in Malton. I think it's an excellent initiative and we should get underway. There's so much we can do. With respect to the rap videos, a lot has been made of those. It's sounding innocuous, but these are not innocuous. This isn't a group of kids going to film a video. These are gang members filming videos they put later on YouTube that communicate to each other. And that's how they talk to each other, and largely in code that the police have been able to decipher, so they know where they're going with this. And unfortunately, the average person may or may not. I've seen them and didn't understand the meaning until it was deciphered at our crime summit. So this is very serious. We've seen rampant gang and other violent crime activity even within the past week. So we're pleading with the provincial government, open up the taps, let the funding flow, give us the $7.7 million Chief McCord has applied for, give us all more money to deal with the issue of guns and gang violence. So that's my rant for today. Councillor Parrish, you can count on my support for the vigil when it occurs. I did have a conversation with Jonathan's mother yesterday, and she's, of course, living every parent nightmare, brokenhearted as you would expect. And I think the father is equally crushed and not taking calls right now. So I know that you have done a lot. And I'm going to, I thought you might announce that I think you're planning a scholarship in his name, and I commend you on that. It's an excellent initiative. And we have also lowered the flags at the Malton Community Centre in response to the shooting. So unnecessary violence this past week, and I'll leave it at that. I'll be with you for the vigil and for the barbecue. And I'm deeply, deeply saddened and shocked at this violent activity in our community. And please, the pitch to I see the media here, to the provincial government, open those taps. We need the money and we need it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very well said. Councillor Saito.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's always tragic when a young life is taken like this, and it frightens the community and it angers everyone. Gang violence in the region of Peel is not new. Peel Regional Police have been fighting it for many, many years. We haven't had a situation this bad before, where the gun violence has broken out and injured people as many people as it has. But it is there. It has been there, and I think at least the last 3 police chiefs have set up units on gang violence and youth violence in particular. Councillor Parrish, I applaud your pushing for that station. As you know, there was a police station planned, and actually Councillor Carlson and I were approached, and neither one of us can remember which chief. I think it was Chief Metcalf. We were approached because there was land which is now the paramedic station at Thomas and Erin Mills Parkway. And that land was purchased many, many years ago for a police station, full-size police station for the west end of the city. the chief approached the two of us because it served our communities and pointed out the fact that at that time there was a huge need in Malton and less of a need in the Meadowvale and Streetsville area. We had 11 division at the time. And the agreement was that if we agreed to move the police station to Malton and not build it at Thomas and Aaron Mills Parkway, what I had asked for was a community station for Meadowvale. The chief at the time agreed, and it was kind of a, I want to say a deal maker, but you know, we were going to support it moving up to Malton regardless, but that was when we opened the very first community station. And it was solely based on the fact and the need in Malton at that time. And it's extremely disappointing that the Police Services Board did not proceed with constructing that police station in Malton, because we were given statistics at the time. And back then, both Meadowvale and Malton had the highest percentage in the entire region of youth, concentrated youth. I had it around the town centre, and Malton had it in Malton itself, in the downtown. So the need was there then. The station was supposed to be built. And unfortunately, the money, as you say, was diverted to build the Emil Kolb Centre, which, given the fact that the need had, I mean, the statistics were there. We were given, you know, pages and pages of rationale for a police station in Malton, and it didn't happen, and I think that's very disappointing. Part of the problem with construction with Peel Regional Police is that decisions for the buildings are made by the Police Services Board, but the buildings are actually owned by the Region of Peel. And I had this clarified during the last budget, but the Region of Peel staff or council has very little, if any, input into what is being built or where it's being built. And I've asked staff to look at that, and our former CEO had agreed with me during budget time that this is something that regional staff and regional council should be more involved in those decisions and in those buildings. Councillor Parrish, the other item that you spoke about was your youth centre, and we can put all the money you want into reacting to violence and dealing with guns, dealing with the gangs that are in existence. But we're never going to get anywhere if we don't stop the gangs from forming, if we don't stop the youth, the young children from joining gangs. And I think I've been hitting my head against a brick wall on this for years, because it's, again, the statistics are there. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We have a lot of organizations that deal with youth and young children up to age 12. And you need to get the kids before they hit the age 12 and 13. Because that's when their brain formation is pretty well set, and it's much harder to change. And I'm referring there to anger management and impulse control. Once they hit 12, there are excellent programs out there, and other municipalities are putting them in place, and we're not. The organizations are there to provide it. We don't need to keep meeting to talk about who does what. We know that they're there, but no one seems to be putting money into it. The province has the Roots of Youth Violence, huge study that was done years ago, and it's gathering dust on a shelf somewhere at Queen's Park, I assume. I'm not sure where. So, you know, we need to be pushing, we need to be advocating as a council here and at the Region of Peel for those services, for funding for those services. Yes, for policing, that's important, but for those youth services and programs like Councillor Parrish's, like the youth, I can't remember what school it is that you're converting into.
Lincoln Alexander.
Yeah, Lincoln Alexander. We need to get those services in there. We need them built, we need them quickly, and we need to be dealing with it before the violence happens, because after it happens, it's too late. So, Councillor Parrish, I applaud you for pushing for that station. It should have been built. It was a very, very poor decision by the Police Services Board to not build it. It was a poor decision to close the substations around around the region of Peel. And I know the citizens feel it was a poor decision. Those of us on council feel it was a poor decision. And I'm afraid that some of those decisions are going to come back and haunt us now and in the future. So if we can fix it now, then we should be doing that. And I certainly hope the Police Services Board is going to take some action on this, because they're the ones that are making these decisions.
Back to Councillor Parrish.
Not to belabor the point, what I have to stress is they weren't Malton kids that were in the gangs. Those were kids coming in from outside, and they're coming in because it's an open field. It's an open place where you can go and you can do your videos, and you can open fire on people, and then you take off really quickly because there is no police presence. And our distance from 21 Division, which is way up at, it's been temporarily moved to 10 Peel Centre Drive, is ridiculous. And that's not critical of Superintendent Rose. He's doing a fantastic job with what he's got. But the distances that they have to cover and the wide open fields around there, it's inviting trouble. What do we call it? Mr. Dulai has put in, he owns a gas station, Petroleum Plus. He's put in $2,500 a year for a scholarship in Jonathon's name, which I put it on Twitter, and we've got over 110 likes and all kinds of retweets. Fieldgate, who owns the mall that actually, once the Police Services Board decided it was too expensive at $36,000 to keep that little community station open, gave them free rent and free hydro and free everything. And there's still no policeman there, and the door is closed, and they pop in and out for a break once in a while. Fieldgate has now offered that they have ample space to put in a division in there, and that they are willing to negotiate that. The youth hub at Lincoln Alexander, those of you who were on council last term remember the fight I had up there with certain Brownton councillors. That one particular tough old councillor is now supporting this 100%. So we're good on that one. And the ludicrous part of all that was it's going into a vacant swimming pool that's been sitting there for almost 9 years, totally mothballed, unused. And until I saw it, I'm going, what the heck? All this space and kids that can't use it. 38% of the population in Malton is under the age of 19, which is huge. And 28% of those kids can't even go to our free programs, which we offer at the community center, because they don't have the right running shoes. And if they live a little distance from the community center, they can't afford the transit to get there. 28% of the kids can't use free programs. So this has been a very neglected part of our city, and I've worked my tail off for the last 5 years, but you can't convert everything overnight. And the one thing I really need is a police station there, and we need to get that hub built. Not talk about it. We got to get it built. We got to get it functioning. We've got to get it so kids who don't want to bounce a basketball, they just want to sit there with earphones on and talk to their friends, have a safe place to go. As Councillor Saito mentioned, the 12-year-olds who trail their 17-year-old brothers across into the great abyss and become gang members, we've got to stop that before it happens. And I thank my colleagues on this council. We've been very supportive of the whole thing, and you've been very supportive of all the things I've done in Malton, and we will continue.
Thank you, Councillor Parrish. We all know how hard you've worked, and I think I could speak for all of us in saying that we're there to support you on this one going forward. So that is it, I believe, for matters on Region Appeal. So we're on to council inquiries. Mayor Crombie.